Welcome to the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast. Working in the early years is busy, funny, messy, and exhausting. Join me, Shána, some of the Twinkl EYFS team, special guest speakers, and other early years practitioners as we talk honestly about our experiences. Whether you're listening for CPD, on your commute, or to help you relax, Twinkl EYFS will share everything you need to know about all things early years. Hello, lovely listeners. It's Shána here with another great episode for you from the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast, and it is an absolute cracker. It is with our lovely early years CPD team, Julia and Louise, and we're going to be talking about the power of play. Now, this is an interesting one because I know if you're an early years practitioner, I bet you already know half the stuff we're going to talk about, and this is just some validation for you. And if you're new to early years, well, you are going to learn a lot. But before we get there, we are going to do a fun little segment called Only in the EYFS. Let's see what random things have happened in your day today. James Sarah told us that the most random thing that happened to them today was when they said, yes, that is a bogey. No, I don't want to eat it either, thank you. Oh wow, yeah, we get that offer quite a lot, don't we? For Mary, it was a child insisting that their carrot wasn't working at snack time. Okay, I wonder what that meant. Sam Wincott had to say to a child today, please don't iron the baby. I'm pretty sure you're not the only one who said that, Sam, don't worry. Lou Dozzer's random event today was when they asked their reception class how they can find out how many toys we have in the box all together, and was told that we should go to the shop and buy an Alexa and ask her. Wow, modern times we live in now, eh? For guest Jenny, it was saying, if anyone else has any live worms in their pocket, then go outside with Miss and put them back on the grass. Why? Why do they insist on bringing live animals indoors? And for Ray, it was sticking evil peas around the classroom for the children to capture. We're a special bunch, aren't we? We do go above and beyond to make our earliest settings magical. Like getting a bag of frozen peas and drawing eyes on them and putting them around the classroom. Yep, we've all been there, don't you worry. There you go. I feel like earlier settings are just full of random events that happen during the day, and you catch yourself after and go, hang on a minute, what did I just say? What is happening here? But that's the magic of early years, isn't it? And something else that's magical about early years is the power of play. And this is what we base our entire ethos on in the early years curriculum, right? So our wonderful Julia and Louise from the Twinkl Early Years CPD team are going to tell us all about why it's so important. Take it away, ladies. Hiya, Julia and Louise are back for another jam-packed episode today, all to talk about the power of play, ladies. That sounds like a bit of a buzzword. So I'm hoping this episode is going to help me figure out what on earth this actually means. So I suppose we should start from the beginning, right? What is play?
Oh, well, that's a really hard question to start off with, Shána, actually.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because play can actually be quite hard to define because it's so multifaceted. So I would say play is not defined by the end product. It is a process that children go through where they're learning and exploring the world around them. They're making decisions. They're following their interests. And they're taking responsibility for their actions or interests, what they want to do. The research that we've done around play by many different theorists, of which Julia is going to talk to us about in just a moment, some key characteristics of play have emerged through the research that we've done, which really helps you to sort of understand the different elements of play. So these are sort of our conclusions of how you could define play. So play can be engaging. So when children are involved in play and playful activities, they often demonstrate high levels of engagement, enjoyment, and involvement. Quite often, children would look like they're having fun, they're smiling, laughing. However, that's not to say that play can't be serious as well. So sometimes you might see children really involved with something and they're still playing, but they're sort of looking quite determined and they're finding their play challenging. So it can be quite silent and serious. So play doesn't always demonstrate itself through the fun and the giggling sort of side. It can be a serious action as
Well,
well.
that's what I was just about to say. Isn't like the basis of play being fun? And now you're like, no, it's not actually. Play can be serious. But it's kind of like a different kind of fun, isn't it? It's like working towards something as well as enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, even though it might look serious, the children or adults, because we can play as well, they are getting a lot of enjoyment out of the challenge that they might be going through, and internally that is fun. So yes, so play tends to be engaging in some way, whether it's through the levels of involvement or engagement. Also, another characteristic of play to help define play is that children will develop a sense of agency. So they'll have control over the experience. It won't be being led by somebody else. They will be choosing to take part, they'll be directing it, and they'll be making the decisions as they progress through the playful activity. So they're not trying to do it to be involved in play to get a reward or for a goal for somebody else. It's truly led by themselves.
So it's like a want rather than a need. They don't need to do it, they want to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So that's two. That's the second characteristic. The third characteristic that we discovered and sort of thought that this was a really useful way of helping to define play was that it's flexible. So play is often unplanned. There's a sense of unknown and excitement about that, and that it can just evolve in the moment. So you're not planning it. It's just can evolve and take a different track, and that because of that, it offers children flexibility and going back to that decision making skill that they can sort of craft their play in and take it on a different journey if that's where their wants and interests go. Yeah, so it doesn't always have rules, but having said that, play also can have rules. And
Look, I was just about to. Do you know what? I'm glad you stuck because I was just about to speak up. Like, hang on a minute. When I play games, there are very specific rules, and I enjoy having rules in my games and a certain way to play. Why am I not included in this, Lou?
yeah, so this is where it's quite hard. That's why I was saying to you, it is quite hard to define because
Mhm.
we've said it's fun, but then it also can be quite serious. And now we've said it can be really flexible, but then also part of play is that you generate rules around play and it can be a planned action.
Although
So
it's just chaos otherwise, Lou. Okay, I just can't cope
Well,
with
we'll
chaos.
come to that later when we talk about play with games, because that's like a
Okay.
specific type of play that a
All
lot
right,
of
fair
adults
enough.
do because children do it when they're later and more developed, actually.
Oh,
So
okay,
it
fair
does,
enough.
it does
I'll keep
come
quiet.
into it.
So then moving on to another characteristic of play is that it's often imaginative, creative. Children create different scenarios, they take on different roles, they might represent an object in a different way. And so play offers them a chance to see things from a different perspective. So then the last characteristic that we have been looking at is that play has to be meaningful. So during play, children make sense of the world, they're making links to previous experiences, they're practicing their skills, and they're developing sort of understanding for different elements. So play is very meaningful to the child, but to an adult or onlooker, sometimes it might not always be clear what the meaning is, and to another child actually, but to a child that's involved in the flow of play, it's actually really meaningful to them. So those are sort of the elements and the key characteristics that have really come from all the research that we've done that would help to define play.
Interesting. And on that last note about it being meaningful, what about people? Because I'm one of these people who just like plays and doesn't really know, like, so I think it's more the sensory play experiences. Like if you just see like nice glittery water and you're just playing around with it, like there's maybe not any outward meaning behind that play, but I would consider that play for me because I'm like, oh, sparkly things, like it just makes me happy. Is that the same?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all of these things at once, but
Ah,
often has some of these elements. And so you can play and you can not know where you're going or why you're doing it, but it's just because you want to explore and you're curious and you're interested. But so it's often, imaginative, because that in that case it's imaginative and creative. Really, you're looking at how things are working. It's quite flexible because you haven't got an end goal in how you're exploring the water and things like that. And it's very engaging for you. That's why you're doing it. But it doesn't have to be all of those things necessarily in one time.
yeah.
And we, as onlookers to play, can associate what learning is going on as they're playing, but children won't be aware of that. They'll just be in the moment. They'll be engaging with the sensory play or the messy play that, like you've said, and they'll just be engaged with it and feeling it and moving it around. And but from an onlooker's perspective, we'll be thinking, well, they're learning about cause and effect, or they're engaging all their senses. And so that's where the role of the adult comes in, isn't it? In that we can look at what children are developing as they're playing.
Yeah, and this whole, I like that because it's kind of saying, there will be a meaning behind this play no matter what, whether the child's aware of it, whether we're aware of it as onlookers or not. And I think that is a very important thing when we're thinking about play, especially in early years, because that is why we do it. We don't just play, we don't let the kids play for the sake of it. I hate that thing whenever you meet a stranger, right? And you say, oh yeah, I work in early years, I'm an early years teacher. Oh, so you just play all day? You better duck because I'm gonna come for you. Like that's a very poor assumption, a very poor generalization of what we're doing as practitioners, but B, what the kids are doing. And that entire definition that you just gave, Lou, is a prime example of how much is going on that you don't even realize. And even me as a practitioner, me asking you those questions like, oh, but what about this? I've been doing it 10 years and I still don't know.
I think there's a lot of work still to be done around really valuing the importance of play, and that play continues throughout your life, and so therefore it should be up there as one of the priorities, no matter how old you are,
This is it.
because it makes you feel good.
It
Being
does, and play
playful.
is fun. And I think you get the most creative when I'm playful. That's where I get my most creative, like problem solving ideas from. The thing, do you remember that Einstein quote? Is it insanity is expecting a different result but doing the same thing every time? And it's like, well, that's what playing isn't. Playing is doing different things, and that's how you get different results. And if you don't play, you don't learn. And I know that you guys know, and obviously our listeners who are early as practitioners and parents very clearly know that play is important, but I want you to hear it from you. This is why this podcast is here. You said more work needs to be done, Lou. Let's start it right now. Let's tell the people. Let's tell the people why is play so important.
Yeah, and so we can tell those people that come up to us as well, and people say it's only play, and you're like, well, you don't really understand what play is. So.
Not give them a backhand. Yeah.
Yeah, so play is, well, as we've said, it's really, really important. And so for children, it's how they learn and how they create meaning in their lives and with objects and with other people. So it develops them not only cognitively, but also emotionally, physically, socially. So it's really powerful. So play helps children to, as we've mentioned already, interact with everything around them, to create the meaning in their world, with their friends and with each other. It helps them to develop confidence and curiosity and resilience and perseverance, because children, when they're really in the flow of play, they keep going and practicing and sort of sometimes repeating things so that they're sort of discovering out how to do it most effectively, maybe. Yeah, and it develops their confidence, helps them to build relationships with other children and adults. And emotionally, when you're in a state of flow and in play, you're actually regulating how you're feeling. And if you're not enjoying it, you stop it because you've got the choice to in play. Or if you're really engaged with it and you're really loving it, then you continue and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, I think there's a really good point about that as well, about making mistakes in play. Like you say, because it's so flexible and because it's freer, I feel like you're able to learn more because you are more open to making mistakes because you're playing. You just play, you're just having fun, you're just messing around. You're just messing around, you're playing. But if you put it in a, a structured, maybe, even a test-like situation, then you're like, ugh, you don't want to make mistakes, so you're less able to try things. You're less, and you learn a lot less, I think. And I think that's actually a really important part of play, right?
Definitely. And I think we'll come to it later on about the role of the adult in play as well, and how actually adults have got a really important part involved in children's play, because you can really enhance it, but you can also stop it quite quickly by interrupting it or disrupting the flow of it. And we'll come to that later on. But yeah, definitely play allows you to make mistakes, and it's okay, and it's a safe place to be.
Right? I think it's the safest place to be and to learn, and that's why we do it in early years. Don't want to, sound like a broken record here, but it's true.
It's so great. You get to experiment without the fear of doing something wrong.
Exactly.
Which is, there's not many opportunities for, like you say, when things are so structured. I'm expecting B when I give you A. It's kind of just like, oh, well, you go with it, and you've got no necessarily end goal, but you're exploring on the way. It's so freeing.
It is. I love it. And let's be honest, right? All of the great minds in our generations and those that have gone by, more often than not, unintentionally stumbled upon things because they were exploring and playing with what they were doing,
Definitely. Some of the great discoveries were by accident, and it's kind of like as if, they were playing around with things.
Exactly. And how can you expect a result of something you don't know about? The only reason you're going to find out is by playing. Like, we don't. Can you imagine? It's like, oh yeah, that's how Time Machine works. You just do this. That's not how it works. You have to play around and then find out.
And then you accidentally discover the Time Machine.
And then we go on to some fun places. Anyway, yeah, that's my bad. Sorry, I was derailing the conversation. But all of this talk about play, right? It must have come from somewhere. Like, obviously, we know as practitioners how important it is, and we were taught about it a lot when we were doing our training. Where did the study on it and the theory of it actually start? Where did that begin?
Well, there's so many people that worked on play, so there's no kind of, this person worked on play, or this person is the most important. There's so many theorists that talked about it. So in our PowerPoint, we do touch upon Froebel, Dewey, Piaget, Montessori, Szymanski, Rubin, like all these people that contributed to how we understand play, how we kind of understand different stages, or how it works in a cycle. And we'll touch on that a little bit, but it's important to recognise that they identified how valuable it was. So Froebel kind of said that play is the highest expression of human development in childhood, which is such a nice quote. He said it's the free expression of what is in the child's soul. Like, such a nice thing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Stick it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Exactly. And it just shows you the importance that is placed on play, and it was central to Froebelian. I'm not saying that right. Froebelian?
Froebelian?
Everyone have a go. Practice. And the same for so many, like Montessori also said that play is the work of the child, and it showed kind of the effort they made to follow their curiosities and the world around them. And it's also woven throughout the approach. Vygotsky kind of recognised the importance of the context and the environment children played in, and how they were heavily influenced by places and things and people that they interacted with, and that kind of wove themselves into their play. So really, children are understanding their daily interactions and everything in their life through play. It's so important for their perception of what goes on around them. There's a lot of theory about it.
There is quite a few, isn't there? And it can be kind of difficult to get lost in a lot of it, because a lot of people will say differing things, but from the same strand. Julie, I remember we've started looking at the free DV child development training that they've put now online that apparently nobody knows about. It's a free course, guys. I know. I think, unfortunately, it's because the DV did say it's for people in early years and childminders, so that makes it sound like not for schools. But anyone who works with early years,
it's early years, yeah, it's definitely
is an early years practitioner.
Yeah,
you know what? I'll put the link in the episode.
Yeah, and we're making resources to support it as well, because there's not many things like handouts or anything to help. So we've done that too.
Yeah, so if you're new to early years and you want to get some more on this is part of the DFE training, and like Julia said, Twinkl are making loads of stuff to go alongside with it. But I'm sure there's a part in one of the modules that talks about how the theories of play developed. And that's quite a nice thing to look at. So yeah, if you're interested in more, go have a look there, as well as us, obviously.
Yeah, there's so much to learn about play. We will not be the be all and end all of your play understanding.
Absolutely not. Yeah, but that's very good. And it's quite nice that it's from different countries and stuff, isn't it? Because obviously, like Montessori's from Italy, Hugo's from Europe. You know, there's a lot of other things that happen outside of England. Lots of other theories from across the world. That it's quite nice that we get to share with each other and learn from. I think that's quite nice about early years, right?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there's so much more that we need to learn, because I mean, a lot of the theories are very Western. They've come from a lot of the West. So I think there's so much more that we could learn from other spaces of the world.
So yeah, I wonder if there's anybody listening now that knows of who we could look at, because that would be really good info.
Yeah, definitely. That would be so great if people commented about, you know, different theorists and different ideas about play, because there's just so much that, you know, you tend to focus on because we are in the West. So they show you the same things, but it's good to open our minds to lots of different.
That's a very good point.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, then. So in terms of like play, is there a system for kind of how it works, how it develops? Like, does it look different in babies or as older? Like, what is there, or is it just a free for all?
Well, again, this is based on a theorist and just Piaget's work. When he studied children, he started to believe there were different types of play that would happen at different stages of children's development. So as they would grow, they would kind of explore different types. So when they were younger, they would start with kind of functional play, which is more physical, like running, jumping, and kind of experimenting with their senses. And then when they got a little bit older, kind of looking at constructive play, so playing with resources to accomplish a goal, like for example, using the blocks to build a tower. So they've got kind of an end goal in mind. And then a little bit older, symbolic and fantasy play, kind of make-believe, role-play games, and then that can kind of interact with constructive play. And then at the oldest end, he said games with rules, which is what you seem to enjoy. So playing
I don't know
games,
what you're talking about.
making sure that everybody knows the rules.
Look, it just shows that I am at a higher form of play than you, Julia. All right.
What was the play you said you enjoyed before about the glitter and the water?
You know what? It's just like so high that you can't even comprehend it. Okay?
I also remember in our schema podcast,
I was just about to say schemas,
that actually your preferred schema type was very organized.
Yes.
And
organized gal.
I'm feeling very attacked here right now.
Hey, no one's saying it's a negative thing.
You better not be, because it makes me very happy when things
Everyone
are
is special, and that's cool.
So then, in terms of, apparently there are some stages. Is that right?
That's someone else. So Mildred Parton Newhall came up with stages. So that was kind of built on after Piaget. She looked at play and saw how children's play develops and grows as well, and kind of decided on different stages. So she identified 6 stages. Unoccupied play, so sensory activities that have no focus, narrative, or interaction.
This is my water thing.
There you go.
There you go.
Solitary play, children playing alone for more focused, sustained periods of time with a few resources. Onlooker play, when children watch others play without joining in, which you might see a lot. Parallel play, children playing near one another but without interacting, but often sharing resources, which happens a lot as well. Associative play, where children play next to each other and share, copy, and work together. And then cooperative play, so when children play together and have the same purpose and goals in their play.
See, I find these ones really, really interesting, because I think especially in like the development matter statements and the framework, you hear a lot about cooperative play and associative play and parallel play, but onlooker play you don't really know about. And for me, I think that's one of the most important ones. These are the children I would always spot, and they would just, like you say, just be on the side just watching, and then people would be like, oh, I'm worried, you know, so and so's not going to play, and I'm like, I'm not worried, they're just observing before they go in. Like, it's like watching how something's done before they try it. And that's just kind of the same with play. And I always try to used to explain that to the children's parents, and they were like, oh, we're really worried. They're very sociable and things like that, but initially it takes them a while and they just stand there and watch. And I'm like, that's actually part of the process, and that's a good thing. They're just absorbing all the information.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I still do that as an adult, you know, when you're in unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're sort of out of your comfort zone, you're looking to others, aren't you, to see how people are interacting and how people are sort of organizing themselves. And yeah, I think it's a really important part. And I think I think we all go through it at different points in our life.
Yeah, and it's part of understanding the world around us by understanding what other people are doing. And I think you see that especially for English as a second language. If those children are coming in, they've never been in this environment before, it's an entirely different language, then they're going to be absorbing a lot of it as well. And they might not necessarily feel the confidence to join in with play straight away. And it might be very different play that they've seen as well. So it's so natural for us to kind of watch that before we feel comfortable.
Oh, I think it's perfectly natural. And it's really nice that you've brought that kind of to our attention. So it's looking like from these two different types of, basically two different things. So it's types of play was Piaget with the functional, creative, symbolic, and then the stages of play is going from unoccupied, solitary, all the way through to parallel, cooperative. I get it. Okay, that makes sense.
And she kind of built on his ideas.
Oh, I see. Right. So is there anything on that we've got that would, that would be handy to, maybe in staff meetings or in handouts that you've got on these things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can find all the information that we're talking about in the PowerPoint. So that's a really nice thing to use by yourself or with others to just kind of look through and reflect on play in general and how it works in your setting. We've also got handouts, which are really nice for just to keep in your folders, or also little leaflets to give to caregivers to start help that conversation of the importance of play.
Yeah, that's really good. I'll stick those links in the episode description as well. So it's just one click away. Very good, very good.
Just as an extra aside, though, there are other CPD resources that we have created that are on risky play and creative play that also sort of mirror lots of this theory throughout them. And we do touch on Froebel and Montessori in those resources as well. So it is useful looking at other types of play as well, the resources that we've created.
Yeah. It's a lot to cover, isn't it? Play is a big thing. We definitely should not take it for granted. There's a lot we've got to learn here.
Gotta love that play.
I love it. So we've got some questions from our listeners as well now. So these are from people in early years practitioner settings and just want some help. And actually, this first question I really relate with. First question is, how can adults effectively support play without interrupting their flow? Because this gets me every single time, especially if you're being like observed and you get maybe senior leaders come in and saying, oh, we're not interacting with them enough. And you feel like if a member of SLT comes into the room, you have to go and, interrupt. You're like, oh yeah, what are you doing? Oh, what are you? And it's like, no, they were fine. We've just ruined their jam. What do we do?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question, and it is complex. There's not an easy answer to that actually, because play, as we've said, is quite a complex process that children go through, and therefore you have to tread carefully as an adult. Otherwise, play can just be stopped as soon as you try and interact or you try and involve yourself. So there was another sort of theory, I suppose, which was developed by someone called Gordon Sturrock and Perry Else in 1998. And that was around something called the play cycle. So the play cycle is a sort of a model to enable educators to have a really deeper understanding of play and the behaviours as they're involved in play. And then also how to support the interactions as children play. So the model was broken down into 6 stages. Another theory was stages. And it went through the stages that children go through as they're playing. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because how adults then support those stages is quite a useful process to think about. So the adult's role in the play cycle was then thought about in terms of 4 ways that an adult can support the process of play. So the first one was something called play maintenance, which is where the adult just observes the play and watches to ensure that the play continues. In that part, they would only interact in the play if there was an element of risk. And therefore,
I did that a lot. I mean, like observe, not be like, oh my god, Jimmy's going to fall off the climbing frame.
Yeah, I was like, was it really risky?
There were menaces in my class. No, I mean, I just observed and let them be. Yeah, I was like, as long as there's not an emergency, I don't need to be here.
Yeah, you only interrupt when there's an element of risk, so that children obviously can then probably continue their play, but that you've sort of allowed it to happen in a safer and more managed way. So that's the first one, that's just a sort of an onlooker observing role to ensure that play is safe. The second one is called simple involvement. So that's where the adult is still quite passively participating and they don't really involve themselves in the play, but they're acting as a resource. So, for example, they might be providing something that then allows the play to continue. They might find objects or something. They're supporting the play sort of delicately by being a resource, but they're not actually involved, observing and providing.
Yeah, this reminds me of a time when I literally was a stick for a group of my kids.
In what scenario did you need to be a stick?
Well, I think it was
I must know.
It was a lesson on, it's not a stick, it's and they were going to be telling me everything. So just for laughs, I think in continuous provision, I was like, yeah, I'll pretend to be a stick. What can I be? I'm not a stick. And then they'd move me around and tell me what to be. So I was a literal resource once.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was quite a funny day, to be honest, not gonna lie.
I mean, we are resources, be used as necessary.
So you're almost touching on the next one as well, actually, Shána, because the next way of interacting is where the adult takes on a more active role in their play and follows the cues of the child. So actually, what you're describing is sort of a mix between slightly being the object but also following the cues, because you're starting to interact in their play and be more involved, and that way is called the medial involvement. So as you can see, we're gradually becoming, as an adult, you're gradually becoming more participatory into their play.
Sounds like a real word to me. You're going with that one.
We're going with it.
So then the last stage of the adult's role is a complex intervention. So this is where the adult is now fully involved and engaged in the play of the child, and they're responding to what a child is saying, as well as suggesting ways that the play can change or could take a new direction. In that part, an adult is completely involved, and the child is now responding to the adult as well as the adult responding to the child.
Yeah, and this is the one that I feel like the complex intervention is the one that SLT want to see all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, it's not actually right to do that all the time. As Julia and Louise have so rightly pointed out in the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast, there are actually 3 other types of play involvement, and this is why I'm stepping back. So if anybody is listening and they're being told that you have to intervene and be a part of the play of a child all the time, come back and tell them this, please, and be like, Julia and Louise said, no, we don't.
It's a lot more going on.
Yeah, and I think those stages that we've just described, there is potential for an adult to disrupt that play cycle. Like I mentioned before, intervening because of safety, offering too many ideas, can then a child go, well, I don't really want to do that. So actually, I'm going to stop the play now and I'm going to go and do something else. Or suggesting ideas that really aren't enjoyed. They're not enjoyable because it's not the choice of the child. And when we go right back to the beginning, when we were saying, what are the characteristics of play? One of them is that it's meaningful to the child and that the child is in control of it. And at the point where an adult takes over, it's not going to be enjoyable because it's not led by the child anymore.
No. And in some ways, I actually think that if we interfere too much, it can be quite damaging, because I had a lot of children that, for some reason or other, were just not comfortable around adults. They would be free as a bird, loud, running around, having the best time of their life with their child peers. But as soon as an adult came, they clammed up, went dead quiet, didn't move, didn't do anything. And so the only way I was going to get a true observation of their learning and their progress is if they didn't know I was watching them. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes actually being involved can actually do the opposite, because it's going to stop them from expressing and learning even more, because they're not comfortable to show adults right now. So just let them be.
It is such a skill of knowing when you're being given that cue by the child that it's okay for you to join in, and when actually, no, stand back and just observe. It's really tricky.
And it's all about, I think, personal space as well. Like, I feel like it's often very much imposed that, yes, we must be there in these children's personal spaces while they play. And actually, that's not that's not very good PSHE, I don't think, because it's kind of like, well, actually, you need to be invited to be in that space, because that is play for a lot of children is an escape. It's a safe space for our children. And if we're just constantly interrupting it, then they're not going to feel safe. And actually, we need to be aware of their boundaries as well. Or maybe I'm just getting too into this. But for me,
No, definitely.
I think especially some of our children who have been in trauma, and if it's been included with an adult, then just to impose every time they play, every time we impose and enter that space when they're finally relaxing and playing, we're shutting down that safe space for them sometimes. So I don't know, you've got to be careful, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, early years are such a safe space to explore that, because outside, just like you were saying, the interactions with adults may be so different. A lot of adults, it may not be appropriate outside to play in certain situations, so they've been told not to play, or they've been told do this instead, or something's been taken off them, and all those interactions, it makes them wary of adults. And maybe they don't see that many playful adults as well, because we model a lot of play in early years, which is quite unusual, because adults outside of the early years might not be modeling a lot of playful behavior, because we don't do that in general. Like, we go to the office, we're not like constantly playing.
I mean, look, early years teachers and practitioners are the weirdos in schools, let's be honest. Like, everyone's thought
weirdos as in the best.
Yeah, obviously, but everyone thought I was completely wacko. And I'm like, I'm just playing around. Like, this is literally my job. I have to do this because that's what I'm teaching my children. And it's actually quite fun. I don't have to stand at the front of the class and read off of a whiteboard for 6 hours a day. I get to do different fun things, as we're all entitled to do. And I think we should encourage that, not just in early years, but further up as well. It's great fun. And it's the best kind of way to learn, I think.
Yeah, you would always see that when SLT would come in to my earlier setting. They were kind of very stiff.
Yes.
And they didn't really know what to do, and they wouldn't get on children's levels, and they wouldn't, look in their eyes in the same sense. They'd just be like, what? They're just immediately physically uncomfortable, and we'd be an absolute mess.
I'd be laughing in the corner like, yeah, welcome to the madhouse. Join in or get out.
You're like, you might not want your nice suit on in here. It's going to get paint on.
Exactly. But that's fun. That's nice. I've got another question here, which I think is quite, on the surface, probably sounds quite simple. It's actually a little bit more complicated. How can I set up a play-enriched environment?
That's a very good question, because it's really important to think about what provision you have for children and how you organise and resource the play environment. So it's important to offer children a lot of choices, but not overwhelm them. It's like a balancing act, really. And then also for there to be things that are familiar, but also new, so they still feel at home in the space, and they can go to those kind of familiar resources if they're not feeling super safe when they first arrive, for example. But then they also have things to explore and challenge them, so that they can kind of take their play in new places as well. So it's important in general for the environment to feel comfortable and home-like if possible, so that children do feel that level of safety, because they don't feel ready to explore unless they are comfortable. So they can't do that real deep play unless they feel safe in the space. And what's really nice to provide is open-ended and kind of loose part resources, because those things can be taken anywhere. Like you were saying, what can you use a stick for? That's such a great resource, isn't it? Because you can be using it for absolutely anything. You can't even imagine what the children are going to come up with sometimes. So that's a really nice thing to put in your environment.
Especially when the stick becomes a person as well.
Yes.
Shána.
Stop. I know. Surprise. The stick can talk. But talking about resources, and obviously I know we all know resources are important. I think space is also important. And I don't mean, to be successful at playful environments, you must have a big space, because a lot of our nurseries and early years settings don't have a lot of space at the minute, and they're struggling for space. And especially, like packaway nurseries, they've got even less space. But it's about the different kinds of space. So sometimes having open spaces, sometimes having really cozy spaces, maybe covered spaces. Like, it's quality over quantity in terms of the spaces, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about spaces, you're kind of thinking about going back to schemas as well, because some children like being enveloped and enclosed. So having, like you say, cozy spaces. And then other children, you need to have freedom to move, because if places are too crowded, then it often leads to more directive teaching or less chances for them to socially interact and move around as they're playing. So yeah, physical space is really, really important. And again, it's getting a balance of having cozy spaces, large spaces, outside spaces where children can move and be physically more active.
And also, I think as well, I'm just thinking about how we designed our nursery layout. A lot of the tables are like specific sizes, and that you can fit 8 around a table or 6 around, like stuff like that. And sometimes things aren't always built for that many children, and it's okay. I think I remember speaking with you guys about on another episode that yes, we encourage social play and children to make relationships, but it's not a bad thing to want to play by yourself.
Yeah,
and I think, making spaces for solitary play as well as group play or paired play, like that's something to be aware of as well, maybe.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even if you think about yourself, if you were exploring something and you were constantly with other people, do you really get to focus on your own ideas or your own interests and follow that path? You need that time by yourself as well.
Yeah, great. Look at this. I'm learning so much. This last question I think is my favorite, because I got asked this a lot from parents when I was in school. So the last question is, parents have approached me to say their children, quote unquote, just play. How can I share with parents how important play is?
Yeah, this is a really important question, and one that I'm pretty sure that every early years educator has been asked. And I think it's something that we just have to know that it's coming as well, instead of being like, oh, this again, because it's something that in general, most people do not understand the value of play. So it's so important that we share that with parents. And you can do that in so many ways. I think a great way to do that is actually to invite them in and to even do sessions together, to even talk to them about why play is so valuable. So what we're talking about today, talking to them about that also helps deepen their understanding of what play can look like and why it's so valuable for their overall development, because they're often very focused on end goals. I want my child to write, I want my child to read. Well, play is so important. If you don't playfully learn to do those things, they won't enjoy it and they won't do more of it, and they won't be, they won't get to that stage. So play is so, so important. And it's just talking to them about why it's important, I think, having those conversations and making links between home settings and earlier settings and giving suggestions of things to do and why. Because I think sometimes when we say, oh, do this at home, we're like, why? What's the point? Really explaining that helps them to understand why play is so valuable.
Yeah, and I remember I used to get parents that, say, for example, if we were going to do like a topic project for half term, because we didn't like homework in our setting, I was like, early years children do not need homework. Their homework is play. But then you'd get the parents that didn't agree with that and be like, oh, well, actually, I want my child to learn, as if learn was separate from play.
Exactly.
And I had to be like, yeah, but especially like during COVID and lockdown, and I had to have like 44 nursery kids on a Zoom call. You can imagine how successful that was. Yeah. And you had, obviously we had to, set home learning tasks, because, I could only have them on Zoom for half an hour at most if I was lucky a day. And then the rest they were on their own. And so the home learning tasks that I would give the families were play based. And then I'd get parents coming back at me going, but why? Why is it not, learn X amount of letters and X amount of no? And I'm like, but they are doing that. This is how they get there. Play is an important process of that. And it really took them on a journey of, oh, actually, if I don't do this, if we don't play here, if we don't get this stuff, there's no need to even think about the future there. Because if they're not doing it here and learning it through play and just playing and developing cognitively, physically, emotionally, socially, then there's no point. So it's weird, isn't it, that we don't get taught about this, because we all go through it.
Yeah, it's a whole different lens basically on education. Like the problem is that all of us as a population do not understand early years play. Like even within, if you work in a school, or even if you don't work in a school, you'll have friends, you'll have colleagues that do not understand our job.
Yeah.
So basically when you meet parents, you have to explain that, because no one really understands it unless they've almost studied it and value it in the same way that we do.
Yeah, it's madness. But look, this episode is the start.
And we've got some great resources on site already, leaflets that you can hand out to parents. And also we've got a new resource in the making.
Yeah, this would be really nice.
Yeah, so this is a PowerPoint that we're creating at the moment that is going to be a really useful resource that you can explore with other educators in your setting, as well as with parents, on what children are learning as they're playing.
Oh, I like it. I'm excited to see that when that's live then.
That'd be
Great.
nice.
And of course, you can tell your parents to listen to this podcast. Yeah.
We're here for them
Great.
too.
Oh, we're here for everybody, early years. Doesn't matter. We love everybody. To end our wonderful episode, we're going to play a game about play. We're going to play again. Oh yeah, I just realised we play at the end of every episode.
Yeah, we like our game with rules.
Yeah, some more than others.
I generally bend the rules when we play
You
the game.
are very flexible. Let's say that.
Can take and leave the rules.
Yeah, they're like an option. More guidelines than actual rules. That's from a film that I can't remember.
That you don't agree with.
Maybe I'm learning from you guys. Maybe I'm learning to,
Really?
No.
That lasted a long time.
I know, I tried. I wasn't fooling anybody. This game is all about play, and as we've done it before, I've asked you some questions beforehand, and you filled in some answers, but I've taken away who's written the answers, and I've muddled them all up, and we've got to guess who the answer belongs to. Okay, you ready?
Oh, ready?
So the first question we asked for this game is, what is your favourite memory of playing as a child?
Oh,
Okay.
that's nice.
I bet I'll get this in one. Number 1 is playing with bouncy balls or conkers.
Ooh.
Number 2, being outdoors, playing in the garden, making mud pies and potions and hiding in various places.
Ooh.
And 3, playing in those adventure park things like giant pirate ships or mazes you would get at a resort near a beach or at a restaurant back in the day, with the ball pits and the foam obstacle courses and the like. The feeling of excitement was such an adrenaline rush. Right. Balls and conkers, outdoors mud pies, and adventure park things. Who's who?
You both like gardening, so you could both be the mud pies. Oh, I don't know.
See, I think mud pies has got to be Lou, because it's messy play and that's what you do in your adult life, my love. Mud pies, potions, I think that's you.
Yeah, it does sound like you.
So, big reveal from me is...
Oh, I wonder what it is!
Yes! I am the mud pies and hiding in different
It does
places.
sound like you.
Yeah, that's cute.
Aww. Little child Lou.
I know, and I used to... I spent a lot of time outside as a child. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of
In the
sense. You love the
garden.
outdoors.
I do. And messy play. So I'm going to say the adventure, playground and adrenaline experiences is Julia.
It's not.
It's me!
We wish you could see Lou's face because the
I know.
surprise is unreal.
Why are you surprised that I love adventure? What is
Well,
the issue?
I did debate between the two of you, but the reason I went for Julia is because a couple of podcasts ago there was something that was really quite daring that she...
I think it was in the risky play one.
Oh, so I thought that might be her.
Oh, that makes sense. Nah, it's me, mate.
Oh.
I
When you were
loved
like restaurants back in the day.
it back in the day. Do you remember?
Do.
Yours sound amazing. I don't think I've ever been to these places
Have
in
you
the back
not?
of a restaurant.
Maybe it's a northern thing, but there was this. Oh, what was this restaurant called? Charlie something. Charlie Chuck. I can't remember, but it was a restaurant. You go for like, your family. It was like a family restaurant. You'd have your smoke inside, your non-smoke inside,
And
then
they had a ball pit.
They'd have a big ball pit jungle gym thing inside. It was all padded, and you get to
That's
play around.
Oh, I don't remember those. I just remember a big elephant slide.
Yes,
you
just
used
a
to go
slide.
down the trunk of the elephant.
Just have a slide. That
Oh
sounds
no,
amazing.
it was so much. I still remember it like vividly. 20 something years later, like
I
they
don't
were
remember
so
anything
fun.
like that.
Oh no, it was great fun.
I probably avoided them.
Every time I used to go and see my grandma and granddad down in Devon, we'd go to Fremington Beach or something like that, and there was this big pirate ship outdoor wooden jungle gym, and it was just,
that sounds so good.
it was so much fun, and we used to go there in the summer. So yeah, so that means then, Julia, you like your bouncy balls or your conkers?
I'm a simple girl. I honestly really struggled. I don't know if I have like a shocking memory, but I was like, what did I even play with?
I loved a bouncy ball. Still now, when you go to shops and there's a whole thing of bouncy balls, the instinct is just to pick them up and start bouncing them. So I can understand that.
Weirdly satisfying. And also, I don't know why, but would like drop them on all the different surfaces to see which one would bounce the most. And I was like, well, I couldn't possibly be bouncing it on this surface. It's not going anywhere. So you get the concrete ones and just whack it down. And you're like, okay, now I've lost it.
Or you just put it downstairs endlessly just to watch it bounce down all the way down. Yeah, that was me.
Be told off.
A little bit, yeah. Great. Okay, question number 2. Where is your favourite place to play in an early years setting? Oh, okay,
hard question.
Yeah.
This is hard. Okay, the first one is outdoors all the way, and any activity in the outdoors involving sensory and messy play. I wonder who that could be. 2, the water tray, when there are lots of bubbles on an area for painting to explore colour mixing. And then the last one is outdoor jungle gyms. I loved climbing the ropes and the slides and rope bridges. My favourite thing to do as an adult is go ape and Ninja Warrior challenges. So I think that's where it comes from. Okay, so outdoor messy play, water and bubbles, or outdoor Ninja Warrior.
Now, I do wonder if it's quite as easy for people that are listening as it is for us, because I feel like it's so obvious.
Easy. It's really obvious.
Anything outdoors, Lou. Not subtle.
Anything messy play, Lou.
No.
Yeah.
Although I could be the water.
No, you couldn't.
No.
That's
like
too
outdoors.
clean. No. Yeah, it's too clean for you. We need to get some
I do love
messy...
water, though.
I do love water.
Water outside with puddles and putting paint in puddles and...
See, mess.
Yeah.
Not just water. You like to make it dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am the messy outdoor.
We know.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah. So Julia, you must be water tray then, of course, with bubbles.
Yeah, although quite controversial, because I thought it could be you to begin with, Shána.
Really?
Because you were mentioning the sensory.
Oh, I was.
True. You like the glitter in the water.
Yeah.
I do like water.
I like your definition of controversial.
I know.
Controversial. That could have been you.
Breaking news.
Everyone, hold on to your hats.
As soon as the next one came in, I knew it wasn't you. So.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, outdoor jungle gyms is me.
Yeah. It sounded very like obviously what you liked when you were a kid as well.
Yeah. Exactly. I was like, this is too similar to my first answer, but it's what I love.
Here.
I can't help it.
Just telling the truth.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Right. Last but certainly not least, this is a very good question. What do you like playing with as an adult? So number 1, I like to draw and play dress up. Number 2, I love nothing better than exploring new places and finding natural treasures. I love the sense of freedom and the endless possibilities you can have with little treasures you find. It's so satisfying. Recently, I was away, searching along the shore for sea glass and beautiful shells, taking photos of beautiful moments which inspire my creative craft projects once home.
Ooh, wow, what an answer.
Wow. My goodness.
What an answer, Julia. Obviously, that was you. Number 3, I like playing with crafts. I knit and sew and make candles, and just this weekend, I made friendship bracelets with my bestie, who says crafting is just for children.
That's you.
Obviously, it's me. Obviously. We did make friendship bracelets. It was great.
That's adorable. Did you put anything on them?
Well, we did. I'm not sure I can say it on the podcast, though, because she was going to a Taylor Swift concert in the cinema.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And apparently it's a thing. I'm not like a Swiftie.
Thing,
they're bringing friendship bracelets to swap with other people.
It's very cute.
Yeah. So one of them friendship bracelets we made was F the patriarchy.
Nice.
It looked really pretty though.
But it looked real cute.
It looked really cute. So yeah. So
protest but looking real cute.
Yeah, I think it's one of her songs, or it's one of a lyric in her songs.
Is it?
Again, I'm not a Swiftie, so I couldn't tell you. She just told me to make it. That's what I did. So
following orders.
I'm just following.
The rules.
There you go. That's what I was just following directions. Directed play. There you are. See. Okay. Draw and play dress up. this has to be Lou, because you went away, Julia. Recently I went away searching on the shore. You went to Italy. So that must be you. So it surprises me that Lou likes to draw and play dress up. Have I got this the wrong way round?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, I have!
That's why when you said, "Oh, that's obviously you," I was like, "Why would I say that after my own answer?"
I thought it would. Honestly, I thought it would. Because I was
I thought it screamed Lou. I was like, Lou just went away. She went to the beach. She loves looking for things.
I also thought, I
This is
think a
her.
couple of podcast episode games ago, we were talking about your favourite things, and you love going away and history, and I was like, oh, maybe that's why.
Oh, well, to be fair, it was very hard to choose. I do also like looking for pretty things on the seashore.
Oh, okay.
Seashells on
you say play dress up. What do you like to dress up as?
I mean,
Halloween.
I'm more like every day. It's just fun to play with my clothes. I feel like you have to take an opportunity to enjoy dressing up sometimes.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to try that more often.
Because otherwise, it makes me feel good. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is fun. Putting together.
You heard of that
things
thing,
that make you
dopamine
happy.
dressing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a form of adult play, I think. Dopamine dressing.
Because I think at one point after COVID, I was genuinely working in PJs, and I was like, I'm not feeling so good about this. So made an effort to play and dress up more, even if I wasn't going anywhere.
I'm gonna do that tomorrow.
Let's all dopamine dress tomorrow.
Yep.
Fun.
Okay, great. Cool. So that means then, Lou, I'm so sorry I got this wrong.
Yeah.
Where did you go away? Where did you find these beautiful sea glass?
Well, it's a combination of different places. I was on Mersey Island in Essex recently, and it's known for oyster shells. And they were just all over the beach. So I wasn't necessarily picking them up and taking them. So I was just enjoying picking them up and looking at them, and just, making arrangements on the beach.
Oh, did you take pictures?
Yeah,
you have to share them with us.
Yeah,
Can you please share them with us?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, so I love the natural world. So anything in the natural world inspires the crafts and the things that I do at home. So yeah.
Maybe we should do like a social post about what we do as adults for playing.
Yeah,
you can do your... Yeah, and I can show you my friendship bracelets with the swear words blocked out. Yeah, and then like our listeners could join in too and show us their dopamine dressing and all the stuff that they do as adults playing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, I'm going to do that. Great. What a way to end the episode, guys.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Now, obviously, everybody knows they can look at the episode description to find out all the resources we've talked about. You can find us on the website and stuff. But I think that's a wrap for Power of Play, my ladies.
What a lovely podcast all about play.
I know. Aren't we
I hope
just
everyone
amazing?
goes and plays now.
Yeah. If this is your sign that you needed to go have fun, go have fun. Do it.
Get that glittery water. Make those bubbles.
Bubbles. I like it. Great. Cool. Well, that's it. Thank you very much, my lovely ladies. And I'll see you next time.
Bye, Shána. Thanks.
Bye. Great. Thank you so much, ladies. That was a great podcast. Great episode. We all know the power of play, don't we? I don't know. I've always been a massive advocate for play, and I'm hoping that if you weren't before this episode, now you are. Very exciting. The ladies have been working on so many exciting resources and things for you to check out if you need support in perhaps maybe training your team on the power of play, maybe educating your school if you're attached to a school, supporting parents and families, loads of stuff. You know where to find us. Go on our website, twinkl.co.uk. You'll find everything you need there, and of course on our socials as well if you want to ask us any questions. But that is the end of today's episode. I really enjoyed spending time with you, and I look forward to the next one. See you real soon. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you would like to join in or would like to know more, then come and find us on our social media sites. We have a Facebook page, Facebook groups, an Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. All the links of where to find us will be in our podcast description. Come and join the conversation. And whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a great day.